Well, good Sunday morning to all of our Flagler County residents. I am yours truly, Pastor Philip King, and I'm so excited to be with you on this awesome morning. Listen, you are in for a treat, and you will have good reason to smile. This morning is a very encouraging segment and broadcasting moment for those that have encountered bullying of any sort. We want you to know that there is hope and that life does have a tendency and have its own way of moving forward and progressing. And we have the right kind of help in the studio with us this morning that can help you move forward with your life. And you don't have to be a victim, and you don't have to be in that state of mind for the rest of your life. And so allow me to welcome our special guest, Miss Aubrey B. Thomas. How are you this morning?
I'm wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Now, you'd prefer to go by Miss Thomas or Miss Brooks?
I go by Aubrey Brooke.
All right. So we have you. All right, Miss Brooke. And we also have in the studio with us my faithful sidekick. Amen. We thank God for Michele Toussaint. God bless your daughter.
Good morning, everyone. God bless you. God bless you. This morning, Bishop, I pray all is well.
All is well now. All is well.
Yes.
Now, listen, before we get too deep into our broadcast, and I'm really excited about being able to present hope for our community. For those that are suffering some very different circumstances, which are common to more than we suspect or that we pay attention to. Before we do that, I do want to simply give our prayers and our hearts to the folks of Boston and the marathon runners and the great tragedy that has just occurred a few days now. Listen, there have been all kind of spiritual and prophetic announcements and declarations. And let me tell you something. Evil is evil and good is good. Bad is bad and right is right. And unfortunately or fortunately, however you look at it, we've had an existence of both. In this world, amen. Mm-hmm. And so we have some wicked people and we have some righteous people, and things like this just really open our eye to the reality of the kind of mentalities that are ever present with us. And so we say to the families, we say to those that are affected directly with this type of pain and this type of trauma, our prayers and thoughts are certainly constantly with you. And we'll keep you guys lifted up in prayer. Anything you guys want to say to those families in regards to what's facing them?
Being in Florida, what I do offer is prayer for the families, the loved ones, the community, and that they be strengthened in this time, and that they are loved. And those that have lost their lives, we're praying for the family members that experience this trauma and this form of terrorism, whether it be domestic or overseas. When you're doing a good cause, you would never think that this type of tragedy would happen. But I just simply offer our prayers, not just for me as a leader, but even our whole congregation is truly in its entirety praying for those that are in Boston that have suffered such tragedy. Mm-hmm. Amen. So that's what I offer up today.
Well, we certainly appreciate you offering that. It goes without saying, this is not our religious hour and our preaching. Mm-hmm. The both of us, we are pastors, and it would be easy to do, but that's not the platform that we're granted doing the roundtable's point of view. However, whenever you encounter something like this, it does have a tendency to bring all people to a common belief.
Yes.
That, God's got to help us. And if something like this doesn't bring you to that conclusion, I don't know what else will, mm-hmm. or what else can. And so again, we're praying for the families and of those that have lost their loved ones and those that have suffered, such a horrible account and events. Now, let's move a little further. And, you know, it's along the same lines because, to me, you know, terrorism is just, you know, that's a way of bullying. That's a way of, exacting your, ideology, your thought process upon somebody else's, pushing your will on somebody else. Listen, we're all different, and we're inclined to have our own opinions and our own thoughts. And that's one of the beauties of living in America, is that we have the opportunity and we have freedom of speech. And even if you have a difference of opinion, I have the opportunity to voice mine, and you have an opinion to voice yours. The point that we start physically trying to manage another person, whether that is by fear or, you know, by just craziness, whatever it is, however you want to categorize it, that is not American, number one. And then number two, that's not humane. That's not what we want to do as civil beings. And so, today with Miss Aubrey, Brooke, she's in the studio and she's going to talk to us a little bit. She is the founder of 5-Star Survivors, 5-Star Survivor. And can you just tell us a little bit about what this corporation is about and what it entails?
5-Star Survivor is actually the 5 steps that you will take being a victim coming into a survivor. And that consists of survival, action, acceptance, reflection, and then independence, which is when you're finally that survivor. That was created by myself because I am a survivor of domestic violence, and I want to give victims, as well as the people that haven't endured this yet, the tools to empower themselves to be able to not be a victim or to come out and be a survivor.
That's absolutely incredible. Go ahead.
You know, and I just wanted to, for you to clarify this, because you used a very important word. When people think about bullying, they don't think that the one that's being bullied is actually a victim, or from that point of view. So when you're discussing, you know, being a survivor and being a victim, a lot of people don't take that seriously. They're like, you're not a victim. So how can you stress not just to the person that's being victimized, but those that are around them to take it more seriously? Because I'm noticing a lot of people don't take the attitude, oh, that person is a victim, or bullying, or whether it's domestic violence, that person not a victim. Oh, they just got angry and he just lost his temper. She just lost his temper. You know, they'll get over it. This is a stressful time. The economy is stressful. So how can you bring it home to the people to understand that these people are truly a victim or are being victimized? Because I think a lot of times it's more so, not so much the person, but community awareness and community response to that. Even if the person does not do it, at least, you know, the people around the individual and the loved ones will respond to that in assisting that person if they ever do need help or reach out.
That's a really good question. Basically, I think people need to realize, and we can do that today, is that when we say you're not a victim, all you're really doing is empowering that bully or that abuser and giving them the right to victimize you yet again in another way. So I guess the best way is just awareness. Just keep saying it over and over. It does take a few times sometimes for people to accept and understand that what people are really going through is a tragedy. And there's a lot of male and female victims that lose their lives. And it's not just domestic violence. It is bullying too, as we see in social media and right here in our town. So I feel like awareness is the beginning.
And that's step number one?
That's step number one.
All right. And give me the steps again. Step 2 is?
Well, the first step of actual 5-star would be survival. Okay. That's when you go into the mode of, how am I going to get myself out of this?
Okay.
A lot of people don't have somebody to turn to. The second would be action. That's when you stop asking why and you just say bye.
I like that.
Thank you.
You got to know when to hold them.
This is
know when to fold them. And know when to walk away.
That's it.
And no, Mark, you didn't know I knew those lyrics, did you?
The third which is a very important one, is acceptance and grieving. You have to accept that you didn't cause this. It's their problem, not yours.
I imagine that's a difficult one because a lot of people, to stay in an abusive relationship, there has to be some degree of psychosis that is manipulated. The mind has to be manipulated, and so oftentimes the abuser, and I'm speaking in relationship now more so than schoolhouse bullying, but the abuser has to kind of get into their mindset. Look what you make me do. Oh, there you go again. You're going to make me have to hit you. You're going to. And so after being in that and hearing that replay over and over, it does become a part of their irrational thinking that, oh man, I must be contributing to this. If I only would have not burnt the toast, or if I only would have ironed the clothes, maybe he wouldn't have gone off, or maybe she wouldn't have gone off. And so that's a great point, to accept, listen, that really isn't on you. You're not the cause of that. And even if you did burn the toast, no one has the right, to just come at you like that or put hands on you.
Very true.
That's a great point. Okay, step 4.
Step 4 would be reflection. Now, this is where you take the time to look at yourself and go in and try to figure out who it is that you wanted to be and who you want to become. And that's how you get into, maybe I'll go back to school and maybe I'll move to another town if I'm allowed to do so. With children involved, a lot of times you can't. But it's just a way to kind of like get back to square one, get back to you.
Wow.
And I think that is so important. That is my heart in that. And I see that happen, the reflection. Because even when you get out of a domestic situation or a bullying situation, you get that cycle again because there's something about you. Because really bullies are attracted to those that are more susceptible to be intimidated.
Yes,
women are more susceptible to reoccur in a domestic violence. So really the important thing is, or the fundamentals of all of this is first self-reflection. Because when you transition from that mindset and then you're like, okay, I'm going to go back to school. I am worth something. Yes. I am valuable. There is some self-worth in me. It becomes a repellent because these people, and really bullies and those that are, that commit domestic violence are the ones that are really intimidated. They're the ones that are really afraid.
Yes, ma'am.
And so what they do, they mask behind this form of intimidation. And, they look like they're 10 feet tall, but they're really 2 inches. And so once we get out of that mindset and, like you said, that reflection and, and coming out of a relationship, and I know you've experienced it, once you come out of that and you look over your life or that person that committed this violence against you, you're like, oh my goodness, I was afraid of you. You're just you're a squirt, so the reflection is so important because I believe even in the steps, if we don't get the reflections correct, people tend to repeat that same cycle or attract that person to continue to come into their lives. So that I believe that is so very important as women, and those are people, and even as men, that those that have been bullied by women, and we tend to exclude them, but those men that have been, so that reflection is very, very important.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I like it. I actually put on my notes, get back to living.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
get
good.
back to living, because sometimes you really do lose you and you stop living. Here's the Bible part. It says, I come that you might have life and more abundantly. And sometimes when you get into that abusive situation, sometimes you just simply stop living and you start catering, and your life is put on pause. So you get back to living. Listen, we got to stop. We got to take a break. I know there's so much, and this is really helpful. I know. I just sense that there are a lot of people that are going to benefit from this morning dialogue. Don't touch your dial. You're listening to the Roundtable's Point of View. Special thanks to our sponsors, Anthony's Fresh Fish on State Street in Bunnell, And ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a encouragement dose this morning. We are simply giving you some great tools on how to deal with and address some bullying and abusive, intimidating situations in your life and relationships. And we have in the studio with us this morning a very special guest, that is Aubrey Brooke, who is the founder of the five-star survivor. And she's really been giving us some great steps and action plans. And I think just before the break, we were dealing with the fourth step. And so let's hit the fifth step and talk about that a little bit, and then we'll go another further, as my great friends say.
The fifth is independence. That's when you are becoming the survivor, the one that you really wanted to be all along. And then you can also empower others along that way, too. Basically, that's when you realize that that person is what you said, Pastor Michele. He's a squirt or she's a squirt, and that's a person that you don't want to get along into again. You know, you don't want to have that problem yet again. So that's when you can say to yourself, I've been able to pull myself out of the trenches and keep trudging on and you know, make a new life for yourself. Mm-hmm. Those 5 steps, you know, every person's different, so it's hard to say how long that would take a person. But I certainly will be there to help them if I can. And this is actually something that I'm working on for a handbook to give out, so people that, you know, can read it and help themselves if they can't get to me.
Well, I think it's absolutely incredible, you know, in the form that you have, the order from the survivor, the action, the acceptance, the reflection, independence, and dealing with the fifth step. I think that, you know, identifying, I like that. I think moving into the independence is a great move of order, and it gives anybody, you know, some starting place, somewhere that they can start working their way back into the independent lifestyle. And again, I'm jotting notes as you're speaking, and I just put on that number 5, identity. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just put in identity should not be based on relationship. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of people do, you know, fall into that, where they can't get into a independence lifestyle mm-hmm. because they interpret and they identify themselves based upon the relationship they're in. Mm-hmm. And listen, if that's what you're living for, you're missing out on a great life. Yeah. Because you will forget the bullying for just like 2.3 seconds. Mm-hmm. If you're putting everything into relationships and you're not investing into who you are living beneath the promises of your own life. And so, certainly whenever you know, divulge and invest such great energy into that alone, you're missing it. So again, the 5-star survivor group, you start off with identifying 5 steps that anybody can gauge and anybody can start. But okay, so what else? What else can you know, survivors? What else should they look for? What else should they reach for when they're encountering bullying?
Well, I came up with this. If the flag is red, use your head. Basically, it's your red flags. It's what you see in another person that you saw from your abuser or, you know, someone, maybe dating violence, something of that nature. And you just need to focus. When you see that red flag, that's when you really need to just take a walk the other direction. Mm-hmm. That's basically how it begins.
What would you consider to be a red flag?
Oh, well, let's see. If they call or text you all day, they tell you what to wear, who you can be friends with. Are they being very critical? You know, do you need to lose weight? Ominous, moody, silent treatment. Screams at you is a big one. A lot of times, and I've encountered this, the relationship is one-sided about family. It's all about going and being with that person's family and not your own, and it's a slow way to alienate. Mm. And that's something that you can pick up on within a couple of months, if not sooner, if you're really paying attention.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I had, when I was in the military, a best friend that we went through that. And actually, I lost somebody to domestic violence, and they weren't even married.
Yes.
And he slowly did alienate her, because that was my best friend. And he ostracized her and they moved. And it got to a point when she finally was making the step to walk away, you know, that last call or that last silent cry that we don't always understand. And she did make contact with me. Unbeknownst to me, a couple of days later, she died. And so that is so important that awareness is to be made, because that person needs to know that there's an avenue. But then we also, like I said earlier, that response is we have to identify these traits, because a lot of times if they're not ready, there's really nothing we can do, but still stay in a posture to be available when they are ready to leave or walk away.
Yes, ma'am. That is correct. Friends and family should not turn their back on you, no matter how much of an alienation there is.
Absolutely.
They are the backbone to this.
Absolutely. And I've noticed this, just to add, that people, and I've heard people say it, they, after years and years, some people that have been in abuse, they get so frustrated with that individual. They literally, the family washes their hands. And so now when that person finally, because during those years, there are times they'll walk away, but they go back. And then the family becomes so tired and frustrated. They're like, no, you're going through another phase. You just got in a big fight. But I believe that, in my maturity personally, that I don't care if they walk away 100 times. I'll make myself available. And because it'll be that one time that they are truly trying to walk away, and then we're not there, and it can cause them to even lose their very life, because they feel they have nowhere else to go, because that's what the person has told them all these years.
Wow, that's a great point. Listen, we're coming down to the last of our segment, but there's something that I want to mention, and I want to get your viewpoint on it. When it comes to bullying, when it comes to domestic violence, I've encountered two type of people. One is the person who has low self-esteem, low self-worth, functional, but have, all of these other things that have kind of impeded their thought process. And so they use fear and intimidations to keep what they love. And then you have those that have real mental health issues, such as bipolar and some other issues. Same results, but two different things. Or do you view those as same thing because they come to the same results? How do we advise people who are in relationships with those who have mental health issues, knowing mental health issues?
Well, let me clarify something. First off, bullying, we need to have empathy for bullies, because there's something going on either at home or somewhere else, because that is the beginning to domestic violence. They get away with it, there's nothing done, then they do become abusers in the end. So what I would say to that is, if it's an abuser and it's an adult, then the mental health issues, if they can be addressed and it solves some of the problem, because there are some abusers that do get rehabilitated. But if it's not one of those situations and it's just someone that's just truly mean, then that to me is just plain abuser, and that's just the way it should be handled. Mm-hmm. And we don't need to try to figure out what's wrong, because that person's just mean.
Mm-hmm. For those that have mental health issues, are we encouraging them to stay in an abusive place because they have a mental health issue? What is our advice to the generality of, being bullied or being abused? I know that's a tough one, but that's the round table's point of view. That's how we do it at the round table's point of view.
Both sides. You see, I'm like, I was going to say.
I know, it looks like tennis, right? Well, my whole view on things is not really to look at an abuser and why they do what they do. That is something that's coming down the road, but at this time I don't have a lot of knowledge of it. In my personal experience, there are just people that are just mean. I mean, they're honestly just mean. You've all seen them. You go to the grocery store and someone just has an attitude, and there's no cause for it. We're alive. It's a beautiful day. So as far as mental health issues go, I think that that's something that definitely should be addressed. People should be found out, but they're finding out more and more, is what I keep hearing, is that mental health isn't really the problem. So that's why I say that, an abuser is an abuser. They can get help. There are programs out there, and I can certainly direct them to them. But they have to want to get help. They have to accept that what they have done is completely wrong, and it has destroyed lives. And it's like a domino effect.
Well, Ms. Brooks, I like your answer. I like the way you said that.
Thank you,
An
Bishop.
abuser is an abuser, and no one should live an abusive lifestyle or an abused lifestyle. There is help. And for those in contact with you, how can you do that?
I have a Facebook page, and it's just facebook.com/5-star survivor. Click like and contact me anytime. I'll be happy to help.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, that is Aubrey Brooke from 5-Star Survivor, and I have Pastor Michele Toussaint. I am Bishop Philip King. You don't have to come to our church, but go somewhere this morning, be in the Lord's house. It was such a pleasure. Thank you for all the words of wisdom and advice and sharing your experience. We're praying that God allows you to help a lot of people in this area and beyond. Until next time, folks, be blessed. We'll see you then.